Welcome to Coding Oak. This video we will cover a JavaScript interview coding question. It is a problem that you might encounter if you ever do a coding interview. And so many coding interviews, they have different types of problems they might want you to solve. I've heard people being asked to take a string and reverse it. You might be asked to solve a some sort of algorithm puzzle, and generally you're allowed to use different languages if you want. You can choose to use Java or Python or Ruby or whatever you want. So you might get in a situation where you can solve a problem using JavaScript. And here, let's say you have a problem like this, and this is a problem I had recently, where let's say you are given a string such like A, B, C, D, E, F, and your output string should be something like this: A, F, B, E, C, D. And you might trying to be figuring out what the discrepancy here is, but what this is this is an example of taking the first index, the letter at the first index, and putting that as the first index. And then at the second index here, putting the last index in there. And then moving on to the next index will be the next index. And then after that, you're going to go to the second to last and plugging that in, going to the next, and then going to the third to last. So again, you're given a string here. This is your input. And your output is starting at the beginning of the string. You take the last element in the string, you put it next, and then you move on to the next and take the next to last. So if we had a string such like let's say JKLMNOZ. Yeah, that's good. Especially, it's good because it's an odd number. Okay, so this was an even number of characters. This is an odd number of characters. And the solution that we come up with will be able to handle both an even number length string and an odd number length string. So let's say we have this string JKLMNOZ. The output, so this is the input. Okay, so this is the input, and the output should be J, Z, and we'll move on to the letter K, and then we'll pull from the second to last, O, then we'll move on to L, then we'll pull the third to last, N, and then M, there's nothing left, M will be on the end. It seems like there's a pattern here. So if we look here at the letter D, D is the last letter in the string. It's the last char in the string, and it's very close to the center, the middle. And look at here, the letter M here is just like the middle. Okay? But our solution will be able to handle whether or not this is a circumspect middle spot, because if there's an even number of letters, chars in the string, the middle will be like an average of the middle two elements. But our solution will be able to handle this. So yeah, our solution will be able to take a string such as this and then output a string such as that. So this is a type of problem you might get in an interview, and it's supposed to be a little bit tougher than doing like a simple like reverse a string problem. So if we move over to the IDE, we'll get started with building a solution to it. So we'll start with our input. So we'll do let input, say equal to, start with A, B, C, D, E, F. Yeah, that's our even number Let me try to zoom in here a little bit. Alright, we're zooming in. Okay, so if we have that as our input, of course we want an output to be like, we want our output to be like this: A, F, B, E, C, D. I think that's what our output should be. So this is what we're going to look for in the end. Okay, so we're going to want a result string. And for now, our result is empty. And we want to find, because we're going to be using counters. We're going to be using counters to help solve this. So we're going to declare a counter. So that will equal to R, or yeah, let's just say r.length. I think that's right. I actually jumped ahead here. So we're gonna turn this string into an array here. So we're gonna do input. The way you convert a string to an array is you do input.split. You just do that. Then just for now, we'll just do console.log the R, this array. Node. Okay. So let's look at this array we got. We got an array of A, B, C, D, E, F. A, B, C, D, E, F. So yeah, that's how you quickly create an array from a string. Input.split. Okay, moving on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over this array we just created. Right? And then from here we're going to generate a resulting string from that array. A string result. So this will be mutated. So we'll do for let I equal 0. We'll start at 0. I is less than r.length I plus plus. Let's just try this. Okay. Now this is where it gets tricky here. So if we're going back to here, now you might have noticed a pattern here. So at this element, and in our array, this letter A is at element 0, right? Because array started 0, and our counter, our for loop we just set up, starts at 0 as well. Okay, so when we start at 0, our output will be the same, right? It's A and A. But look at where we're at when we're at element 2. When we're at element 2, at the output element of 2, we get the letter B. But that's just like the second element here, right? And then when we go to the third element here, it's just like here. But this is element 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So at element 0, we get A. But then at this B, right? It's just like that, right? But then at C, it's just like here, right? So this would be element 0, but this would technically be element 2, right? 0, 1, 2, but it's just like here, B. Then 3, then 4, element 4 in the output array is just like here, the third. And then it seems like what we need to do is we need to fill in these F, E, and D with the last half of this array, or this string, counting downwards. Maybe a little confusing. But so since we seem to be transposing here, 0 at the 0 element, 0, then at 2, then at 4, these are of course even numbers, 0, 2, and 4, right? Or their modulus 2 equals 0, right? So what we're going to first do is we're going to take care of these indexes that are modulus 2 equals 0. So if I modulus 2 equals 0, we're going to do our resulting string will plus equals r at, it's going to plus equal r at the counter 0, right? So what we have to do is we have to have another counter. We're going to have two counters here. We have to declare another counter. Okay, so we want this to be 0 to start off. And then we're going to increment our inner counter. Okay, so this will make a little bit more sense in a few moments. Then we need to do else if I modulus 2 does not equal 0. So if it's something like 1, 3, or 5, r at count. I think this is right. No, we're going to drop down, right? So this is important. Our count variable starts at the last index of this R array, right? So if our string length is 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the last index in the array will be 5. So our counter starts at 5, and that's 5. So when we're at index 1, when we're at the first index, we're going to set that to this, 5, the last index. Or, I know this is confusing, but 4, right? The length of the string minus 1, 4. So when we're at 1, we're going to set that to this, the last index. When we're at the 0, 1, 2, we're just going to set that to this, 1. And that's here. That's our inner counter, 0, and then it increments up to 1. If we're at I modulus 2 does not equal 0, it's going to refer to the other counter which starts at a higher number. And from there, believe it or not, I think that's it mostly for the code. And now we need to create an output so we can see what's going on. And we're gonna print the result. Okay, I think this looks good here. Inner counter, outer counter, Yeah, so with Control S, we'll save this, and then we'll get ready to run it. Let's run this. Whoops, got an error already. Okay, unexpected end of input. Let's check that out. For some reason this got caught up in the loop here. I think our brackets are messed up here. Save that and run it again. Okay, I still had that printing the array here, but A, F, B, E, C, D. This was our output, A, F, B, E, C, D. And that seems to align right with what we had predicted, right? A, F, B, C, D, which, yeah, that should be A, F, yep, B, C, D. A, F, B, E, C, D. Yep, so this code produces the correct output. This is for a string that is a even number letter. How many lines of code was that? 18 lines of code. Could cheat here. 17 lines. Now let's have an odd number of strings, odd number of characters. A, F, B, C, D, E, F, Z, and we're predicting that the output should be A, Z, B, F, C, E, and then D. Okay, this is our predicted output of this string. So let's test that. Actually, you know what? Let's delete this array here. We don't want to print this array anymore. Let's run that. And what is our string result? A, Z, B, F, C, E, D. I feel like I'm doing an eye exam here. But it's just like we predicted, A, Z, B, F, C, E, D. So yeah, that's a solution in JavaScript on how to do that type of interview question. A question where you take a given this input string, you have this output string, regardless of whether it's an odd or an even length. You have this output string that replaces every other element, or I guess every other element minus one element with the last element counted down. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that's helpful, but you need to learn how to use these loops, these if-else statements, and these counting, iterating, whatever you want to call it. Try to get comfortable with that and try to come up with a practical solution. And so if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and happy coding.